Well, my name is Eva Lindsay, and I'm the manager of the historic Victory Grill. I'm very proud to be here also. We're located east of the freeway at 1104 East 11th Street, right at the corner of 11th and Waller. There's a huge, huge history here. The Victory Grill is, as I mentioned earlier, was built in 1945. It is now on the National Registry of Historic Places. The interesting thing, or the thing that I take pride in, is that when in 1994, the Victory Grill was boarded up, as was most of the buildings on this street. This street was considered redlined, which meant none of the owners of the properties could get money to upgrade their properties because of, quote, redlining. And redlining only meant that you couldn't get insurance, and you couldn't get a loan, and you couldn't get a loan because you couldn't get insurance, and so you'd be damned if you do and damned if you don't, so to speak. It tied the hands of the owners. But there was also another thing that I think is important for everybody to know, is that the people that own these businesses on this street own these businesses and this property before the civil rights legislation. But once the civil rights legislation was signed in 1964, my parents and these owners told their children, there's a better way now. You can get a good job if you get a good education. You get a good education, and then you can get a good job. And I heard that most of my life. Once we were free to be able to go to any school, we could go to state schools that we ordinarily. We only had a couple of choices in Texas. And once that legislation was signed, then there was an opportunity. It was believed that there was an opportunity for us. The unfortunate, or what I consider the dark side of the legislation, was that it gutted our commerce and much of our culture. Much of the culture was gone because cities began to revitalize those areas that were deteriorating. As I believe the law says, if it's 50% slum and blight, then the city can get federal funding to redevelop. And through urban renewal, I watched that happen in 1970, 1969, 1970, and when I came up here, it was happening again, and I made a concerted effort to ensure to Mr. Holmes that we would not lose this history, this culture, and this real estate. And so in 1997, we received a national designation, and we're listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. Our designation is as an authentic member of the original Chitlin Circuit. And as a member, that means we get connected to all those other places in the country that also received that designation. And so I'm very, very pleased about that. We have Preservation Texas, which is a statewide Texas organization, has given us a designation as a Texas treasure. And we're also an Austin landmark as of a little over a year ago.